trance, a full trance channel. I'll as an example Robert Shapiro, who's a friend of mine, or Lee Carroll, who's a friend of mine, or Steve Rother. All of these guys are full trance channels. I do know that, like in Robert Shapiro's case, it seems to really tax his energies, so that because I think he does this almost every day, sometimes for maybe several hours, and it really seems to tax his energy. For me, as long as I limit it to, like, say 3 sessions a week, hour and 15 minutes, it's not too bad. Maybe the next day I feel like I need to sleep an extra 30 or 45 minutes.
Oh, that's not very much at all.
Yeah.
On top of a full night's rest. So really the channeling is quite a different activity, mental and biological activity, isn't it?
It seems to be, because they have to put themselves into a deep state where the other entity takes over their body and answers questions that the person has absolutely no knowledge of. And I would think that, that's got to be harder than what I do.
Mm-hmm. So it certainly sounds more intense. I want to ask you about portals, and then I want to ask you to talk a little bit about what you described as how the Federation got started based on the ancient, really honest-to-goodness Star Wars. Before you start, though, I want to remind everybody the phone number is 888-919-2355. If you would like to call in and ask Tom a question of your very own, about the book tonight, First Contact, but about any of his other 2 books or his newsletter or his experiences or whatever. Tom, you're going to be in these scout ships and the mothership. Tell them about portals.
Okay. I asked Antura, how are they able to go across these millions of miles? And he says they do it through what are called portal hops. And he says, and I've asked him, I said, well, does every planet have a portal? And he says, with his knowledge, every planet in the universe has at least one portal. Maybe they only have one, but they have at least one portal. Earth is like Grand Central Station. We have 60 portals, even 1 or 2 portals that go to this other universe that's nearby. And so we have these portals, and these portals are just sort of like just above ground. They're very close to the surface. And so they do what are called portal hops. He said you cannot get from one end of the galaxy or one end of the universe to another in one big jump. He says it's like you're going. He refused to give me all the information because he said your scientists have to learn this, how this works. I cannot give you the information.
I know how to explain it, Tom. It's like the Southwest Airlines business plan.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. You can't get there direct, but you can get there.
Exactly. And that's what he used. He said it's like Southwest Airlines going from the East Coast to the West Coast. You make intermittent stops, and then you keep going, and that's what they do. They make these portal hops, and they have these they punch in the coordinates for the next portal that they have, and they go to the next portal and then the next portal, and that's how they get around the universe, is through these portals.
So are these huge? I mean, you're saying a whole ship goes through the portal.
Yes.
So are these huge areas? I mean, you said they were located just above the ground, and I think I read that you mentioned one was in Sedona, and
yes,
some other. Isn't there one supposed to be in Egypt near the Great Pyramid or something?
Right.
So are they huge?
I think it's hard for us to understand that because it seems like the portal can handle everything from small to fairly large. And I don't know how you could say what's huge because it's like it's almost at a slightly different dimension.
Yeah, that would make
You know,
sense.
a frequency. Maybe let's just say when we get to 5.0, maybe it's at 5.1 or something
Hmm.
like that. Just a little above us.
And
So
and
I haven't gotten that far yet.
and why are there so many of them on this one planet?
Well, I think it's because we're of such great interest to the rest of the universe. They want to be able to get here from all sorts of different places without perhaps having so many portal hops.
Interesting. And I do want to ask about Star Wars, but I just reminded myself I did not ask you a little bit more deeply about the Anunnaki. It's your understanding from talking to maybe it was Antura or one of or Theo. There really is a planet, and they actually were here, and they actually did sort of create life forms to do their mining for them. Is that right?
No, they did not create the life forms. They
Okay.
took over life forms.
Oh.
They basically used them in Africa, I understand, sort of as slaves in their minds.
Hmm.
And so the Nibiruans have claimed that they're a member of the Federation. And when I asked Antura, he said, no, they're not. I said, what? I said, but they say they are. And he said, no, they're associated with us, but they're not a full member. And I said, well, why is that? And he says, they're on probation,
Hmm.
and because of their past activities.
And yet the
So
Zetas are full members?
um, that I'm not sure of. That's just a question I haven't asked. But
Okay.
I assume that they have to be now. Probably the present day Zetas
Uh,
are members of the Federation, where the guys that were doing all this mischief stuff
mhm.
were the past, way back in the past Zetas.
And
So
are those the ones when people say the reptilians? Is that who they're talking about?
no.
Okay.
The Zetas are the little 3 foot guys with the
Okay.
weird looking eyes and the thin bodies.
The Greys, is that what they call them?
Yeah, the Zeta
Okay.
Grays. Okay.
Okay. So talking then about the reptilians, this plays into the basis for the Star Wars and how the Federation came about.
Yes. Um, it seems that there truly was a Star Wars uh, a couple of million, several million years ago. That's a little difficult to determine because our years are so different from universal years. And the reptilians in another galaxy decided that they wanted to take over some planets in this galaxy for their minerals or whatever they needed. And they just kind of attacked them and took over, and it was sort of like almost like a Pearl Harbor kind of thing. Suddenly they were attacking and taking over these planets.
Mm.
And so the Federation of Planets had not been formed at that time. They were just a bunch of planets out there, and everybody had to start fighting together to repel the reptilians. And this went on for thousands of years, and according to Antura, was very nasty. Billions of beings died. He said your science fiction movies, Tom, depicted depicted like a planet being blown up. He said in actuality what happened is that they would blow up a sun and all the planets in the solar system would be destroyed.
Oh my goodness. That
So
that's amazing. And they're still out there in the universe and no one has thought to come to their little civilization and their universe or galaxy and blow them up.
oh, they did. I mean, these guys went there. This went on for thousands of years, and finally, they made peace. And so that's why there are going to be 2 reptilians on this mothership, because part of the peace process is that they were allowed to have souls that would take part in the Earth experiment. And so these 2 reptilians are coming to check on some of the souls, some of the humans that have reptilian souls on Earth.
Interesting.
And everybody is very peaceful now. He assures me everything is very peaceful. It's just that he says the reptilians on board their spaceship tend to stick to themselves. They don't mingle very well.
Interesting. Here's a really interesting question to me. Someone is referring to the fact that you mentioned earlier that when the Zetas come back and reveal that, yeah, we're the ones that abducted some people and we're really sorry about it and all of that, he's asking what happens if some normal humans, and this sounds like a normal human behavior to me, says, all right, so what kind of compensation am I going to get from you guys?
That of course won't happen, but
oh, it might happen, but they might not get an answer.
Yeah, it's I realize as litigious it'd be a little hard for them to sue another planetary society elsewhere, but that's again I think that's going to be a very interesting visit due to the fact there's so many people whose psyches were damaged by these abductions. And Antura said that these Zetas would typically abduct someone probably at least 30 times, but as many as 100 times. And this lady that recently featured in my newsletter, her family was abducted 40 times, but she only can remember 5 instances in which she thinks it happened. Mm-hmm. So all the others are all buried in her subconscious.
And I remember you said that one of the reasons it seems to run in families is that once they isolated the DNA traits they were looking for, of course, genetically, that family would have more of those traits than jumping to another family. So that's how it turned out to be clusters, right? Right.
And something else, they also go to the other timelines and abduct the same family. Antura said otherwise they would have abducted the people even more times.
Oh, my goodness. Lovely. Someone is asking, and I forget exactly the answer to this, what year did you say that they actually ceased these abductions?
Oh, I don't have the exact year on that. I think it was certainly probably at least 5 or 10 years or more ago, the way it sounds. But that's a question I have not asked.
Okay. And then here's
you
another
guys need to send in these questions to me, email them to me so that I can ask them in future.
Let me give another plug for the website. It's thegentlewaybook.com, and you need to go there and sign up for his weekly newsletter. It gets delivered right into your email box every week, just like magic. And Tom is very encouraging to anyone who wants to send in questions about anything. And this topic that we've been talking about tonight, as wide-ranging as it seems to be, you should go and see all of the topics covered in all of his newsletters if you really want to see wide-ranging. But here's another question. How do all of these various groups of souls and ETs view what we normally call time? And I know that most people, at least in our state of mind right now, think of time as being pretty linear, but obviously from what you've been saying tonight, time is not that linear. How do these other folks view time?
They don't have watches or anything, okay? They're not interested in time like we are, okay? And that's because we're in the space-time continuum. We have very short lives. It was designed that way. Originally,